It's Friday again. This is The Week That Was with me, your host, Simon Brown. And we have once again the full bench, FNB, Wealth and Investments, Chantal, Marx, Sasfins Securities, David Shapiro, Vestacts, Khumalo. And there's only one place to start. Forget orange is the new black. Orange is the new leader. But are we in trouble? Here's Jacques Nel, Head of Africa Macro at Oxford Economics Africa.
From his first presidency, I think it's important to distinguish what Trump said and how he was portrayed in the media and what he actually did towards Africa. So in the media, of course, he came across as quite insulting and almost uninterested in the continent. But then again, he put the Prosper Africa initiative in place, the Investment Development Finance Corporation he also established. Both of those initiatives have been pretty productive to facilitate investment in Africa. So there's that mismatch. Going forward, again, it's very difficult to say.
I got to say, it turns out America did want to vote for the old man. Who knew? David, let's start with you, seeing as you're also the old man. I mean, I don't know how to read a Trump presidency because the man is completely disinterested. It's going to depend on who he puts into his cabinet, surely.
Which you've got to be scared of. Because I think those are the issues, especially if he takes all three houses. I haven't seen the House yet. I don't know.
They've got Senate. I don't know about the House yet.
No, it was touch and go, but it was going that way, which allows him to push through all his policies. I'm not worried about America because when you actually analyze what happened there, this was on the cards. I think this is anti-Democrat rather than pro-Republican. There's a lot of worries about the Democratic Party and what they stood for. My biggest concern is not Africa. I think we'll get away with it. I think it's a very low priority. The big issue is Europe, which is in between a faltering China and a tariff kind of incited.
And with a small little Putin on this.
Yeah. So I think Europe's got more concerns than perhaps Africa. I think we'll just be ignored, we'll just bumble along, we'll go pay homage to him and shake hands and show we're friends with everybody, but I don't think it's of a major concern.
Wash those hands after you shake them. Markets were like, yeah, off to the races, all-time highs, S&P, Nasdaq, Dow, everything.
Yeah, I mean...
Russell was up 8% at one point on Wednesday.
On Wednesday, it was, I think, our 48th all-time high year-to-date, and yesterday was our 49th, so I think it's, we're firing on all cylinders here, but everyone is worried about the inflationary causes that his policies are going to cause in the US. I'm like, everyone was worried about the exact same thing the last time. Yes, we did have inflation. Yes, markets did go higher. So I don't know. You have to choose your pain here. I'm invested in markets. I don't live in the US. So I've chosen my, path in life. I guess I didn't choose it, but I like it where it is. Exactly. And I think Chantal actually put it quite nicely when he said Trump is actually going to have to now attend our G20 small party that we're going to throw him next year.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that. He's going to be in Santon.
Yep. Who knew?
Chantal, the one thing is, I remember 10 years ago when the Republicans had a hissy fit because Barack Obama wore a tan suit and it was unpresidential. They've now voted for Trump. We can get so hexed up on the individuals and the chaos, but you look at a chart of the S&P and you know what it does? It goes up, president or not.
Yeah, so I think that the S&P specifically will go up because you've got this massive tech kind of weighting in it. And tech, by definition, is growth, right? So they will outperform the rest of the economy, particularly if they are able to push their product elsewhere in the world. And I think that that's where the only question mark lies for me. What are these tariffs and these protectionist measures going to mean from a global expansion perspective for these big US companies? And then the other thing that the bond market is warning us about is this inflation story that Bright also mentioned. Because a lot of the stuff that he wants to do is hugely inflationary. And yeah, we don't live in the US, but that inflation gets exported to South Africa. We already are expecting a pretty shallow cutting cycle. I'm concerned that this means that the cutting cycle more becomes like a cutting blip.
Yeah. Now, I take your point. And that, economics 101, tariffs on inflation.
We didn't realize, doing the post-mortem on this election, what inflation meant for people there. When I was talking to people and they said, prices have gone up, no one took it seriously. But when you analyze what swayed voters, the one was inflation, the other was illegal immigration. We poo-pooed it, we brushed it aside. but it was a big issue.
And the thing with unemployment touches some people. Immigrant inflation touches every single American, from the poorest to the rich.
Isn't it weird? You vote for a guy because you hate inflation currently, but his policies are inflation.
It's weird.
Logic.
Cold politics. Also making news this week, snow in the Eastern Cape in November. The EFF sheds more fighters, and soon it will be the economic freedom fighter, with just Julius left manning the podium. Australia wants to ban social media for those under 16. Makes sense, but how? Reagan, the Olympic breakdancer of sorts, retires from competitive dancing.
Love
Home
it.
Affairs wants to parachute the rich to the front of the queue. Mozambican elections not going well. Nvidia replaces Intel in the world's most useless index. RIP Quincy Jones. RIP AECI, as they sell much asphalt for half what they paid for it, while 43 monkeys escape a medical lab, and the police chief says there is almost no danger. But first, let's start with the most overshadowed event of the week, rate cuts. We have both the BOE and the FOMC cutting 0.25% on Thursday, and nobody seems to care. Chantal, it's to your point. We are in that cutting cycle. The question is how much, and maybe not as much as many had expected. US 10 years trending higher.
Yeah, I mean, what the futures market is also telling us is that the expectation is now for 90 basis point cuts, or a further 90 basis point cuts, and not a further 100 basis point cuts. And that can easily go back to 75. It can easily go back to 50. The Fed was kind of non-committal around it. They said, well, we'll continue to monitor the data, we'll act
Very
accordingly. Very, very as per usual. So I also don't see a near-term impact. So we'll probably get our cut in December. Maybe we'll even get another cut next year. But I think that it depends on timing, I guess. When do these policies start filtering through?
They will, straight away. So I'm a big bull.
Trump's not there until 21 Jan.
Yeah, but you know what we don't realize is that every small cut just means a little more in the back pocket of the consumer. And that comes through that will start coming through in a big way. So we've still got, I never understand 90. You know, what is 90? It's going to be, is it in 25, another 100.
Maybe
but I
it's
think,
20,
Chantal,
20,
I think we underestimate, and it's also, as I've said before, past cuts were always done in a crisis or to help a crisis, alleviate a crisis. This is being done into a very strong economy.
Yeah.
So I think the effects will come immediately. You know, when I say almost immediately, down the line. That's why I'm so bullish about the U.S. economy and the U.S. market above everything else.
Of course, 21 November, we've got our own MPC. I mean, we get another quarter from them. I mean, the hope for half is probably gone.
That's a rip, hey?
Yeah, so unfortunately, I was very optimistic. I was even looking at property stocks, but look at where we are now. Maybe don't get too excited yet. Just, live it day by day.
Yeah.
I think we were always going to have a shallow cutting cycle in South Africa.
You're the smart one. We live in Hopeland.
I'm very emotional when it comes to these things.
So they want to take the inflation target down to 3%.
Yes.
I know.
So and Kaniago's almost done, right? This is his last cycle to actually do it, and you want to do it according to the research that our economists saw. I didn't read the research. But the economists at FNB said to us that the research tells them, and obviously the Reserve Bank, that it is good to make these adjustments to the inflation target in a cutting cycle while inflation is coming down. That is probably the last chance that he'll have to do it.
Yeah. I know, Bright. We want it lots. We're not going to get it. The Dow Jones price-weighted index is effectively at the close today, kicking Intel out and replacing it with Nvidia. Adjusted for stock splits, Intel was 21.58 when it was added in 1999. Today, it's 26.23. I mean, it's a silly index. It's a silly thing. Does it matter? Are there any funds that track it?
It does matter. I think there are funds that actually buy
there's some.
ETFs. I mean, there's always weird ETFs that are not, what's the word, cap weighted, but
price
weighted. Yeah. So there'll always be weird stuff like that. Some people just want price momentum, and the Dow is one of the things that you can get price momentum from. So
you missed that the Dow Chemicals was replaced by a paint company. Do you know that? So there are two companies. Nvidia replaced Intel, and Smithson or something. I can't remember it. All I know is it's a paint store. Or it makes
it's meant to
and
be
it's
an
a really
industrials
good
index.
company. Yeah, but this is I'm being unfair because it's a industrial paint company. It provides a lot of that, but it's had an incredible performance. Okay. I didn't even know it existed. Sadly, it's got a market cap of about $90 billion. So it's but it replaced Dow.
Okay. Well, China briefly excited markets again this week as they had a big meeting about their stimulus package. But the bigger news is orange threats of wildly higher tariffs against China. Here's Tian Pan, head of product at Prescient China, thinks China may actually prefer him over Harris.
I mean, to the surprise of many outside of China, the word on the street in China is actually a Trump victory would have been preferred. Everybody understands in China that because of the ongoing competition for global supremacy, the so-called supremacy, the relations between China and the US are not going to get better anytime soon. But Trump is seen as a more potential transactional president, where there may be some positive surprises in bilateral relations. And that's what many here in China are hoping for.
Because China could be important because, Brett, I mean, we want China to boom so they can buy our commodities, so our rand can go cheap, so we can take money into the US and Nvidia.
Yeah, and you have your retirement annuity somewhere out there, and you want Nasper's process to go up, etc., etc. But most of their meetings, as I was saying just prior now, since this is an adult show, they're more like a date, where you take a condom to a date and actually there's no action at the end of the date. It's literally all of their meetings this year. Share prices go down, they come back down, go up, sorry, and they come back down.
I hear you, but there was a report this morning out of China that they have approved almost $900 billion to help bad debts at sort of city level in China. They are tweaking stuff, and that's a big number.
It's only for property. So, because they've had a property problem in Hong Kong and mainland China, but they're only supporting somewhat most of the property market. Financial markets, they keep saying they're going to support, they keep throwing $300 billion here and there, not really doing anything to actually make the consumer feel rich, because that's what they want.
The helicopter money?
They're not doing the helicopter money.
It's absolutely right. Watch the Chinese consumer.
Yes.
And you can watch the Chinese consumer through luxury or through their L'Oreal or even through,
So there's nothing happening. In all of the 2 months of us watching the luxury stocks, they've only moved today.
Okay, so what we need to do is send Xi Jinping a little WhatsApp, actually a little Tencent, what do they call that thing? WeChat?
Weixin.
Of a helicopter.
WeChat, yeah.
After the break, results, updates, sales, and almost no danger.